Whew. Man. My eyes look puffy. Probably. Let's give honor to Source, to the Creator, the Most High, for making all this possible. To the ancestors known and unknown. Another vulnerable, yet much deserved video from moi. But greetings to all. How you doing out there? You can see this video to my right, probably to your right. I'm just gonna dive right into it because I'm gonna break it down from my experience. I'm honored. Shout out to the Green Poet because man, it ties into a lot of things that I've been speaking about. But really, I cried like coming across this video. I literally like cried, like purged, because of just so many things that she touched on, like so many things that triggered things within me, and also like brought up some things that I could no longer hide from myself. I could no longer keep away. I'm trying to think, is this camera clear? And again, this message is definitely for all, but specifically geared towards a lot of young men. If you have sons, this is definitely, men and men of, elders and so forth, all generations. Like I said, I'm here to speak, to be that bridge for the youth, but also to bring a deeper awareness and bring more compassion into the hearts of people, into ourselves first, so that we can realize like what we're battling with right now when it comes to the well-being of our youth, the well-being of a lot of elders who silently carry exactly what she's going to speak about. So I'm going to try to break this down in a lot of pieces because she, like I said, she covers so much within, I believe, like a 2-minute span. So I'm going to begin from the front, from the beginning. But the first thing that she says, which is, hold on, let me move this out of the way. When boys aren't protected, but let me turn this on.
They don't forget. When boys aren't protected, they don't forget. They don't grow out of it. They carry it quietly, loudly, violently, silently. It shows up in the way they love, the way they lead, and sometimes in the way they destroy. They learn protection through extremes, through shutting down, through shutting others out, through fists, through silence, through achievements that never feel like enough. They build walls instead of homes, fortresses instead of families. They mistake control for safety because safety never felt real.
Let me stop right there.
Boys aren't protected. They don't forget. They don't grow out of it. They carry it quietly, loudly, violently, silently. It shows up in the way they love, the way they lead, and sometimes in the way they destroy. They learn protection through extremes, through shutting down, through shutting others out, through fists, through silence, through achievements that never feel like enough. They build walls instead of homes, fortresses instead of families. They mistake control for safety because safety never felt real.
Man, listen. Because safety never felt real. It's so many things that she said. Let me tell you something. When I say I'm learning it took me almost 35 years to learn what safety really feels. Not only just feels, but I'm realizing in feeling that, I'm realizing I have to create that. What is safety for me? What is happiness for me? And when she said when boys aren't protected, she pretty much leads into men, and how we can destroy through this not receiving the protection we deserve very young. and how we can destroy that through basically our actions. And as you know me before or follow me, I can account to that and take full accountability to where not knowing how to control my impulses, because I was around people who were never safe for me, people who were never safe for themselves first. When she said building fortresses instead of families, like, it's so challenging to where you're trying to build something you've never really seen consistently. And I'm not just talking about having a family. That's one thing. You know, you can have relatives and people that make up a family. I'm talking about maintaining it, the consistency of what family constructively feels and looks like, the stability, the emotion, the the spiritual significance, even the protection around that, trying to protect the family, and at the same time trying to protect, yourself. And how we carry it loudly, quietly, silently, and this rage from not being protected very young. What she said, we learn through extremes by shutting down and shutting others out. I've been there to where it's like I didn't know how to respond, because at times I used to be scared of my own self because I didn't even know why I was doing what I was doing. And that's like a child, to where it's like oblivious to the fact of, hey, why did you do that? We ask a child, why did you do that? And they don't even know. But that goes back to what I've said before, learned behavior. From the stigma around not being able to be honest or having honest foundations. Previous video talking about a blueprint. Our forward plans are not built upon stable families, stable structures for certain demographics, such as myself. And with that, it takes a lot of accountability to come to myself first and realize, like, whoa, how do I do this? How do I navigate this? And again, when she speaks about how boys aren't protected, the number one thing that highlights for me is, like, it's not to say all boys aren't protected, no matter their demographics and so forth, but speaking from a man that is darker, it is very much different in a climate, in a country, in a place where you're not protected, and it ain't just a physical thing. It's also learning how you're not protected spiritually by, on a deeper level, where a woman is not just a spouse, a partner, and so forth. Those who are in tune and aware know that a part of you showing up physically is also a part of you showing up spiritually, like having a healthy spiritual hygiene. So with that, I feel like this is like such a distraction for me right now. With that is how many of us know that your spouse or partner is also a spiritual protection for you. And I don't just mean praying for you. People say pray, or people say speaking life into you and so forth. That is a form of protection. So when I look at my earlier days of child development, we're talking about the fact of not having that early protection, not only just physically by physical abuse, but verbally. All of those things start from a spiritual and internal place. All of those things start from the root of how someone feels about themselves, how they feel towards men, or how they feel towards women. And that reflects back to how they treat children. And just speaking from experience, again, what we carry, or what we've been taught, the stigma around how we shouldn't express our emotions and be honest and be vulnerable, has been used as a fear tactic, or almost like manipulation for men to not be who they are, be in their authentic self, be the man, or be someone who's trying to convince the world through their silence and through perfectionism, because that's what modern day men, she also mentioned, which I kind of already knew, is that's what modern day men chase, is the perfection, trying to look a certain way, trying to look outside like everything is okay, when deep down they carry so much silently. We don't forget about what we went through. The world wants to convince us that we have. I couldn't even imagine, like, when I say this stuff, like how stuff comes up around athletes, people who are center stage around being who also in the climates have been like deal with passive aggressiveness or even being bullied or even being attacked, and sit back and not say anything, or just the fact of not being vulnerable and caring so much, and just still be so oblivious or disassociated from the reality of what's going on in the world, or what's going on in the climate, what's happening. It's just like, for me, I'm like, whoa. And I realized, like, I have to be that very individual not caring about if they're going to do it, if whomever. It's the vulnerability of me being honest with myself and being able to reach to those youth and realize, like, your vulnerability is a superpower. Your tears and who you are is not a threat to society. And again, just seeing how people in those spaces, no matter their status, and knowing that they also carry an inner child, know that they also carry things from their childhood, and how they silently are just even through them being silenced through the fact of how they obtain their status. And it's no difference in a child or being silenced when they grow up. So I'm saying, like, whoa, like, it's so much that I pick apart when it comes to, again, the blueprint or the floor plan of what people are a part of, and how they're even probably most likely threatened not to even speak up on certain topics because of the impact that they know or the effects it can have on the masses. So with that being said, let me see. Y'all hear something in the backdrop? That's just another person next door.
When boys are protected,
let me continue.
They don't forget. Violently, silently, it shows up in the way they love.
That's another thing.
And
it shows up in the way we love. Man, that shit right there hit me. It's like, it shows up in the way we love. When you look at, and I've said this before, how our child development has been from childhood, we learn or have learned behavior patterns to where it's either going to lead us to self-destruction within self and destroy everything around us. Self-destruction first, and to destroying everything around us. And this is how I recognize how I'm not at all the man that modern day society would I want to be very mindful of my words. Like, I won't even, because I don't want to be, I don't care about idolizing, but that's how people are perceived or glorified. Like, I'm not basically something idealistically what the powers that anal used to be would lift up on a pedestal so quickly, because of the fact of how a healed man who has sat down, who listens to his body, who realizes a lot of things that is coming up and being purged, a lot of things where he's being authentic, which again, the powers have shifted now. And it's honoring the fact of who he truly is and the layers that came with him, and then being able to almost like be a threat to that system, to the image of what you're usually seeing of what a darker man represents, or even what a man represents in society, a man's man, or a hard-working man, or a man that just shows strength. I'm not him. I'm not that. Because for one, my belief system, I'm not going to convince myself that I got to go out here and not listen to my body and not listen to myself and work hard for what? And do what for who? And that can be very disrupting to and challenging for a lot of people to accept. Not that I could care, but and again, the strength again around the image of even how you can look on so many levels of what a darker man, the image of what he represents, and even what that image, again, whether it's sports, again, through violence, through silence, a lot of that, when you look at the whole image again, this could be. I'm gonna step on some toes with this, but I wouldn't want to put myself in certain sectors of, let's say, like sports or boxing or football, because in all honesty, those people, worked hard for what they've had, but a lot of them don't tell the end result of how their bodies are almost destroyed, or almost like the recovery process from taking hits, or the recovery process from the basketballs. What's the end goal? Or again, it's not to say some people don't have that. And then even the boxing thing, a lot of people, when you look at a Muhammad Ali, people don't even realize, like a lot of those kids didn't realize when he had the shakes, that comes from taking blows to the heads, from again the trauma that he endured from the beatings. Again, I'm looking at that image of the world as, again, the silence of carrying the unresolved emotions, the unresolved behavior patterns, or the unresolved things into a violent state, or a passive aggressive state, or even taking that rage into these realm of things and using it as a way of protecting, leading more with ego in a way of protecting one's image. But then that image still, that what's being protected still reflects the root cause of things that are not authentic, things that are not built with integrity. But I look at, again, how much, when people have these platforms, how much we overlook the fact of, okay, I see the bigger picture. It's great to see a man do, amazing things in that. I'm just not him. Again, I'm not at all going to downplay what people have accomplished. I just see the deeper concept, or the root cause of what's fueling that image, or what's protecting that image of what a darker man represents. And again, in my world, I'm going to, again, instill in young men the importance of well-being and to protect their safety. This is about safety on all levels. This is about happiness on all levels. Men, you got some men I know, they opted out certain sports on a higher level because they wanted to keep their bodies so they can see their kids. Grow. But people don't think about it on a deeper level like that. They don't give you the stories of how and where those men are who don't even realize unconsciously how, due to the fact that they don't really connect to the youth other than on a superficial level, or just on a physical aspect, how they don't even realize, like, how unconsciously that still affects them. That still affects how they're more focused on the profit that they're gaining rather than the emotional connection, or the oneness of how the youth is also looking to you. The youth is also looking for, or seeking someone who they can relate to. And what's been relatable in modern day society is a man who is silent when it comes to his emotion, a man who carries all of his burdens or unresolved traumas and issues and emotions and repressed emotions and memories, carries it in his image that he portrays to the world on all levels in a way of strength, false empowerment, as I say, or carried in a way of not just strength, but what was the other one that she mentioned? Strength and hard working. And that's why I realized, I look at a lot of people again on all levels. Yeah, kudos to your hard work. Oh man, look at such and such. He's still this age and still out there doing this and da 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 da. Okay. Well, again, the things that I share again about the well-being of our children is on a deeper level. there's a shift in the atmosphere. There's things that are changing. When you're talking about a system built more on, not on the holistic aspect, then you're talking about coming from generations where it's just go, 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 go until your body can give out. And then that's when the medical aspect comes in. Or that's when, again, so much more comes in to where it's literally a false perception of how a man's supposed to be. And again, I'm not going to portray to be like, oh, I'm going to come off as this the man's man, and how. No, I do not represent the generations before when it comes to what a man should be and how he should act and how he should do things. No, because to me, I feel like that is a form of weakness, how men don't hold space for themselves and other people. Because what I feel like is that false perception of strength and hard working is a lack of compassion. Is a lack of compassion for self and for other people, because you're unconsciously teaching these young boys and pushing this image, to the world, which again, deep down, you can put me in front of any person, and it's very challenging dealing with men because their ego gets in the way, or their wounded ego, or their pride gets in the way, and that's why it's so important dealing with young men, kids, because you still have an opportunity. You still have an opportunity to pour into them. Now, people that have been literally, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years into certain things, they don't even realize that they're still carrying this anger, this rage. And they don't even realize that they're unconsciously, being that they've got so consumed by their status that they're literally misguiding the youth. And what I mean by that, I'm going to be honest, you're misguiding them into more so idolizing, praising your image rather than them focusing on their individuality or loving themselves or honoring themselves and pouring into themselves. Yes, I'm here to shatter the illusions. So let's continue here. More what she was saying.
Through extremes, through shutting down, through fists, through silence, through achievements that never feel like enough. They build walls instead of homes.
Okay.
Fortresses instead of families.
When she said, she said, through silence, what was it? Through achievements that never feel enough. Let me tell you something. The reason why well-being is so important is because at the end she's going to say how, what I recognize in today's society, how most men build through fear. They don't build through wholeness. This is the great shift right now, is that we're building from the pain to the gain, which is the darkness of who we are. We can no longer run from our shadows, into the wholeness coming from a whole place. When I'm speaking about this is coming from the dark place within me, and then the feminine to the masculine. That's the whole aspect, meaning I don't have to feel shame and guilt around what it is I'm saying, because it's authenticity from me. And whether people receive it or not, I cannot control that. Whether they take it personal, I cannot control that. Other than that, when it comes to the fact of, again, I recognize how men have built in fear. She mentioned how they built in fear instead of wholeness. And when you look at the climate, again, a violent, a passive-aggressive society, violent society, who have men in certain demographics, young boys who carry pain, who carry so many things, and literally destroy everything around them. So how can we overlook the fact of warlike tendencies or passive aggressiveness, where you have men in certain status who are waiting to use their false sense of power and try to destroy other men or step on other people on their way up? And we call this power. We call this strength. We call this, we disguise this as humility or honor. People who on their way up stepped on and unalive innocent kids and mothers and people on their way into building their empires, and you call this strength and hard working? That's fucking disgusting. So again, when she said you built fortress, not families, this is why you see a great divide amongst people right now. It's because a lot of people that are not in contact with a lot of their fathers or mothers or whatever it is because they were more concerned on building out of fear of not having materialism. These generations before us built from fear material security. And that's what you see. That's what you see broadcasted through culture, through music, through a lot of things on all levels. They built through fear. And a lot of that stems from what? Carrying unresolved intergenerational trauma, ancestral things, unresolved things. So I'm going to build, as she mentioned, build walls instead of a home. I'm going to continue to shut people out. I'm going to build all these things up, and I see it happen to people right now. Instead of them building with people, they build walls. They dive deeper into substance abuse or the mental health crisis right now because they built more walls and they built more connections, or they built more walls around. They not just didn't build walls around their heart. They built walls around spiritually, but they built walls, emotional walls, spiritual, and then also what they disguise as protection. They built it in their communities. They built it in their homes. So this is where you see the bitterness, the pride, the ego around a lot of elders or a lot of people right now who are unavailable emotionally because they built walls, emotional walls so high that how dare they be vulnerable? And so they mask it silently through their bodies, keeping it in, disguising it through their materialism on all levels, no matter who they is and their status. Anything to not feel vulnerable, my sinuses, boy. Anything to not even to show any type of vulnerability, oh, how dare you? Because they feel it's a sign of weakness. Let's see. That was a big one. Mistaking control for safety. Oh my gosh. In this day's climate, I can't even attest to that. Like I've said before, in my childhood, I did not even know what safety was, so I tried to control everything. I didn't know I was being so manipulated and abused young to where I mask, because the world praises the mask. The world praises the mask when it comes to men and women. And when you don't have women that have felt safe, they enable men. You've enabled the men to destroy everything around you. This is why I be saying this. This is why it's so important that I was being able to be guided to the mother wounds, because I realized I would destroy every woman and every little girl around me if I wasn't aware of the mother wound I had. So when you have women in the same energy of never having a safe father, never having a safe environment, unavailable father, then this will lead them, through their actions will have a love that leads that way, whether they know it unconsciously. It's the same with little boys. They will lead with that eventually. That blueprint, that floor plan, they will lead with that. They will lead in the idea of this is what love is. Excited about self-destruction. We've been excited about masking ourselves. We've been excited about attention more than self-awareness. We've been excited about dysfunctionality, laughing at our pain rather than nurturing it. We've been excited about that, masking ourselves until now the mask is falling off. And then some of us don't even know how to have compassion for the very people. We'll sit there and we'll ride by people who are still human at the end of the day. So again, when you have I always speak from the matriarchal to the patriarchal. When you see this patriarchal society, there are men who hide behind masks all day, no matter their status, creed, or culture. They hide behind masks all day. If they had a sense of compassion for themselves, they wouldn't want other people's kids to live the way they do. They would speak up. But because of their pride and their ego, they've chosen their side. This is why they're going to fade more and more. Because they choose the money over the spiritual well-being, over the emotional well-being. They've chosen their so-called God, or what they want to honor and praise. They've chosen that. And then they still can't outrun universal law. So with that again, we've been in a society that has confused safety with control. When you don't have a climate that is prioritized around safety, our kids being safe within and without, and then you're protecting the people, manipulating the masses with the fact that people who are wanting to be idolized, wanting to be praised in such a way to how is that giving us safety? How is that protecting us as a people? How are we protecting people who are not prioritizing safety for ourselves and kids? What the fuck is that? How are y'all? This is why we're still so confused. How are we so idolizing people with so much that, this false concept of value? They have all this money, but that money, what is that? The money can't save them from death or transition. None of that. They'll just carry that on into their next generation, and they'll carry that same belief system. And this is what you're seeing play out until it stops with us. And so with that, again, we confuse or building things from safety, confuse safety with control. You've been in a controlled environment most of your life, even in society, people who are unconscious of it. It makes no sense where you got school shootings, the most in any other country. Dude, I don't even know what other countries have it. How, or where's the control in that? Or where's the, not even control, it shows how out of control the atmosphere is. When you don't prioritize well-being, when you prioritize more violence and keeping silent, and what type of men don't protect that? I don't care about no groups and all these people who say they represent this and brother this and this and that. How the fuck are y'all not speaking about prioritizing the well-being of our children and our mothers and so forth? How? Y'all turn a blind eye to a man who wants to prioritize protecting not only our inner child but our children and their mothers, because it's not going to change until y'all stop enabling the men who are led again, who are leading self-destructive patterns or learned patterns of, men who are clearly have unresolved issues within themselves, unresolved and repressed emotion, violent tendencies. And that's speaking from self. Why are we still trying to protect these very things? Because guess what? I keep telling women, y'all are enabling this. I'm holding space for men, but at the same moment, when we don't have our women that have felt safe and secure within themselves, they don't even know sometimes that they are enabling these same little boys, and this is why they don't have, it ain't even just a sense of control. You've never been safe for them. You never created a safety net for them. Even if you're in certain demographics, that's still something, you could say, this comes from the spiritual sense, like keeping that connection. This is why a lot of you have to learn by reconnecting with yourself, realizing you are your son's first line of protection as a mother as well, spiritually. Just as, people want to say, the dad is the first line of protection, physically. No, it's also spiritual for women and men. Speaking over your child. I'm saying affirmations to my daughter, reminding her, I am safe, I am secure. I am divinely guided and protected in this world. Reminding her of that. So when she says that to herself, she can move in that energy. She can move in that action. Because it's a spiritual warfare. Again, we've been given this false perception of what safety is. This is what you've been given patriarchally. A school system, an environment, a governmental structure that does not prioritize safety. It prioritizes destruction, self-destruction. And that's why you see people acting the way they do. This is why, again, certain things when it comes to violence and teaching boys to keep silent and build more walls and stuff like that, how are we surprised that it's happening the way it is? So when it gets out of control, guess who wants to run in and try to control it through, possibility of military and other stuff? Because this is the blueprint. That's their blueprint. They don't have no control. There is no. That's the biggest illusion. Is people think that they don't. This isn't a society, or there isn't leaders who prioritize the surrenderance of things. And that's what a lot of us who are sitting back are realizing. It's the surrenderance. Our mothers don't even know what it is to surrender to the present, to be present anymore. Some women are learning that, but they don't even know what it is to surrender and allow things to unfold. Let's continue here. Provision and performance. And that's what a lot of our young men are so, it's driven so much ego-based and not love and truth, is that a lot of our young men, the people that they idolize, they're driven on performance, perfection, provision. How strong you are, how hardworking. She's like a man's man, but no one sees the weight of the child, the man that's crushing an inner child. You don't have to prove through your pain, I'm gonna let her say it.
Your tears are not threats. Your voice. Why was I left to carry what broke? This boy frozen in time.
Under all that armor is a little boy frozen in time.
Felt like death, and still under all that armor,
this is a little boy frozen in time.
Whispering, why didn't anyone save me?
Man, that shit right there made me cry so much when I was laying in bed last night. I said to myself, and that's what I say about compassion. We're taught so much just as men, because again, this is solely for, people can feel the way they feel. Let us have an opportunity and have a space for young men and men to say, have our moment. Because I don't think people realize how much we've been beaten down, not only just by society, but by the very women who never had compassion for us. Who never, even through all of this, you still have a mother or auntie when you do try to be vulnerable, when you do try to say this hurt me or something like this, and you create boundaries, we still get beat down. Our name still gets slandered. More conflict avoidance, more passive aggressiveness as nothing ever happened. People still want to interact with your children as if, simply there's no appreciation. I keep telling y'all as women the importance of I know you haven't felt appreciated, seen, or valued. And that's the thing you have to work on within yourself, doing the shadow work, the inner work, because guess what? You won't be able to see us, because as much as you think we're separate, you're still going to divide yourself amongst us. And this is why you see these relationships, podcasts and all this, everybody going at each other and forgetting about the inner child, forgetting about the little girl and little boy within them. As much as they think that their spouse or this person, their mother and father can fix them, it's you. It's you. That's why I come on here, because I realize the full accountability is realizing it took your actions to be where you are. And that's how I realized wow, I had to learn to be vulnerable for myself, mother myself, nurture myself and so forth, because my mother didn't do it. So in that, I share my message. So I realize I can connect to the women without having to feel like I have to be, have the old versions of womanizing, the old foundations that led me to self-destruction and destroy them. The foundations of abuse, self-abuse, manipulation. Again, I learned behavior pattern that I didn't even realize I had, because again, that's what I was leading with. That's what a lot of my men, even in their status, have been leading with. So now it's the uncomfortability through that, and then the comfortability, or the confidence, I should say, through trying to connect with women, not on that level of, impulsively trying to jump into a relationship or jump into something and it involving intimacy on a physical level, building something more authentic, whether through partnership, businesses, and so forth, without realizing that old image that I had through a wounded lens or through a lens of what I unconsciously led with is to perceive women in that way. No, that's where the rewiring came from, the learned behavior patterns that I had to reteach myself in the holistic way, coming from a whole place. So I'm able to discern what type of women to deal with, what type of women to connect with, what type of women to even stay away from, to protect myself from. Because if I wasn't protected young, I also have to be discerning and remind our young men and so forth that, hey, and men today, that you don't even know the very woman you're with or the women that you're around, because of your learned behavior patterns, are not even safe for you. It's so easy for women to say, oh, he is this, he not this, he not. But where are the women that are reminding us to protect ourselves as men, young men, and their sons from the very mothers, aunties, and other women that we need to protect ourselves from? Where are y'all? Where's the compassion for us as men? One thing she mentioned in here is so deep, is like I said, this part, it really touched me. It like made me cry so like deeply, like not just only the little boy frozen in time, but this right here. Why didn't anyone save me? Why didn't anyone come when I cried, bro? Why did I have to carry? Hold on. Why did I what? Why was I left to carry what broke me? Gosh, bro. Just those three things. Why didn't no one come and save me? Because again, the stigma around men not being able to be vulnerable and express themselves. Why is it such a climate? Y'all don't even see the loop in this shit. How the distorted mother, the wounded masculinity portrayed from the matriarchal to the patriarchal, meaning the wounded masculine through the actions of how we have created society that kept us in a place of carrying. Not only did our mothers carry these things, but that emotional, those emotional waters, that emotional resonance carried to the young men, to the young boys in the womb, and to now their assertiveness through their actions and how they grow into adulthood. And you're wondering why these repressed and unresolved emotions and so forth lead them to a violent and silent, what we call leadership. Why they get into certain spaces and all of a sudden they react a certain way and throw their whole life away. Because this is what we've been enabled, but don't want to take no fucking accountability. So again, with that, when nobody came to save mom or grandma and nobody checked in on her, she enabled the same young men to this day who go out and silently push everybody out. And you see this in adulthood, you see this in elders right now who portray this very behavior of their pride and acting like nothing's going on. And that's the root cause of that is from what they dealt with their mother or grandmother and so forth. So now what? That's what they got from their matriarchal. So they never felt safe. They never felt secure. So with that, now you're seeing this displayed on the world stage on all levels. And so now they don't look for no one to come save them. So now when you bring a religious aspect, I told you how the religious figure was used for when our mothers were looking for some type of vulnerability or some type of scapegoat. I do believe that certain religious figure was used in place of that to keep them from really sitting down with themselves. So now you're talking about women who overcompensated in certain relationships for a sense of safety. They've overgiven themselves to religion. Grandmother overcompensated. Rather than taking care of her home or certain things, she overcompensated her energy to governmental structures. She overgave to certain relationships. And guess what? Guess who saw that? Little boys. I saw my mom do that. That emotional abandonment and that physical abandonment led to a belief systems I led with, and guess what? Guess what? When I silently carry these mother wounds creates overcompensating in relationships, overgiving, trying to protect that woman. A lot of men today trying to protect that woman from her own lessons, for her needing to sit with her mother or father wounds. That's what we created. So now that's why you see the overhaul, the overworking, the over-analytical, the anxiety, the never sitting down and observing what the fuck is going on with me. And that tore me apart when I realized, like, we're talking about certain demographics where no one came back to check up on mama and grandma. No one came back to ask them how they're okay. And it's not even to save them from what they're dealt with, because everything that they did wasn't always their fault. It wasn't their fault. It's not to say not to take accountability, but everything they did was not just their fault. And that's why we grew up in a society where we were taught to blame other people but never take accountability. So when she mentioned how with young boys who are not protected, I always go on a deeper level. Yes, I used to wonder, like, why didn't no one come and save me? I've dealt with the abandonment issues young, where again I've seen my mother and stepfather at that time, her boyfriend, go to jail, get in violence, do stuff, disputes. And my sisters would be, my grandma would come and get them. And it's like, I had to fend for myself very young. It's the same thing when you see little boys in certain demographics out in the street. It's the same thing where you can still have a dad who prioritizes his work, and no matter what his status and class is, he can be in such an overhaul to where he don't even realize he's creating a more separation physically from a child who needs more emotional connection or intimacy or more affection in other ways. And what that creates is so much of that child can feel like, well, I'm going through this, whether puberty or going through transition where they don't feel like, well, why didn't dad or mom come when, let's say, a sexual abuse or something, traumatic experience happened? We're coming from generations where, why didn't someone come and save me or come and support me even through after that event that happened? And we're dealing with unprocessed events in our lives. So that's why we carry it silently. This is why a lot of us are here now wondering, even in disbeliefs on our jobs and careers, wherever we are with our status, and still haven't processed certain events in childhood. So again, we've been taught to go and overhaul, overcompensate, overgive, give so much to this career, this status, and so forth, and still neglecting and abandoning the very thing within us, the inner child, that our mothers and fathers showed us. Learned behavior, the same pattern, we're just reenacting it. So, let me get back to the other part where she said, I came right into it. And a lot of us have these questions. Why didn't anyone come and I cried? Why was I left to carry what broke me? And after that, she said, like, how the world praises the mask. That's what women and men. Why did no one come and I cry? That's really deep, because a lot of us dealing or have dealt with emotional abandonment have dealt with parents that are emotionally unavailable. And so when you're in that moment of expressing your emotions, and I've dealt with this personally, even with my daughter at a young age, to where I had to regulate my emotions or learn to, because I didn't have someone show me or guide me through it, to where I didn't even know how to even do it with her. And a lot of us don't even know how to do it with ourselves. So now when you're in partnerships, relationships, and so forth, you don't even know how to even understand and overstand the emotions around how the stigma around even men and women. Because again, we didn't even see mama or daddy cry. So for one, that's taboo. A lot of us never seen mom and daddy cry. A lot of people never seen that. So now again, we've seen people mask themselves so much, and now the masks are falling off. And now you're seeing people what they prioritize. Okay, let me see.
It's mad. But no one sees the weight of the mask crushing the child inside.
Mm-hmm.
To those men, you don't have to prove your worth through pain anymore.
You never had to.
You don't have to believe
to feel valid.
You don't have to perform strength while hiding your wounds. Your softness is not weakness either. Your tears are not threats. Your voice, your truth.
My softness is not. What she said, my softness That's what I'm have to learn to do. My softness is not a weakness. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. Whether crying, being vulnerable, all that. It's not weakness at all. To the youth, that's not weakness, bro. Ooh, what she say? Because real manhood isn't about how heavy you can carry in silence. It's about having the courage to set it down, to heal, to let yourself be seen. When boys aren't protected, they become men who overcompensate. But when men choose to heal, they become protectors, lovers, and builders. Not from fear, but from a place of wholeness. Man, let me say that again. That shit is so deep. Tell you, I grew up around all these men who did not at all want to display tears or anything. They wanted to hide behind so much, and deep down that little boy was crying out. They thought showing softness was weakness until they went to jail and prison or whatever it was, or until something happened. And there's no difference for the people who did not get apprehended or certain classes in creed. They're not exempt too. You can best believe that just because people think that they skipped out, or they think that universal law ain't gonna miss them as well. Because even though people feel like, oh, well, in society, this person has privilege, yeah, until now, you don't realize like all that karma, all the energy has been accumulated, and it's going to show in the rear. It's what they call ugly head, or it's going to, everything done in the dark is going to come to light. So no matter what people hide, no matter their demographics, no matter their color and creed, everything always comes to the light. Your softness isn't weakness. Your tears aren't threats, young man. I'm telling you. You don't have to perform strength while hiding your wounds. Your softness is not weak. I'm telling you. Your voice, your truth. I'm reading from her, like your vulnerability. Man, that's so true. We grew up in a society where manhood has been taught to us is to carry everything in silence and not to heal. No, you have to see you inside first before you care about seeing who through your performance, through your accolades, through whatever you accomplish. And that's why a lot of people at the point now do not feel a sense of fulfillment. They'll never tell you that. You got so many men right now in this world who have accumulated so much materialism, so much material security, so much what they're doing now. And that's what I was being reminded of. I've got to a place within myself where I was like, I can leave this world in a sense of peace, knowing that the effects that I'll have on the generations after me, knowing that I've lived in my authenticity and integrity, knowing that I've lived a fulfilled life through being honest. And it's not has anything to do with what I've tried to gain materialistically or what I feel like I did not accomplish. I've accomplished everything. Because I tell people, how you know your accomplishment this lifetime is not centered in peace, or your physical, spiritual, mental well-being. That's the thing that has changed. That's the climate that has shifted. But we've been taught to prioritize or tell our young men, and we've been enabled by a distorted mother or a wounded woman to believe that manhood is to hide our wounds, is to hide in our silence, and to just gain all these things. And you see our young women display themselves as that. I gotta have a man to have all this without any type of emotional stability or security, because eventually he's going to destroy that shit through his actions. And you're seeing it play out right now. You're seeing it all over, and a lot of you going through it right now. You can be in a very relationship with men, I don't care what his status is. He can have everything. And if he's dealing with mother wounds or repressed emotions or unresolved things, it is going to rear its ugly head eventually. It's going to show. And I'm giving you a gem. It's going to be revealed. Whatever he has not dealt with within, let's go for both men and women. It don't matter women's status either. It's going to reveal their true nature, or what they've been hiding from layers of masking themselves. It's going to reveal that. Because it's going to reveal the fact of how people are coming from fear of abandonment, fear of whatever it is, the root cause of it is. And And that's going to show in their actions. It's not going to come from a holistic place. Let me see, what was the other part? And again, this is what has enabled, I'm going to finish up, this is what has enabled the overcompensation. When we haven't been protected as men, we overcompensate. Same thing with women. Mothering men who are still little boys within. Same thing with men. Mothering, and even with that, you will see the fact of being in connections where there's a codependency. It's not coming from a holistic place. You'll be in things, and even though we carry mother and father energy, it just has been in the not so healthy place, in the codependency place. And this is what a society again has groomed people to be more codependent naturally. That's what the floor plan and the blueprint has been all about. It was designed to keep people in a codependency state, never really being interdependent, or some people learning to strive in their independence, or go after that more than chasing externally for validation or reassurance, from a root cause of probably some type of trauma or woundedness. So with that, again, women do overcompensate a lot, and they know it, and they don't even know why sometimes. But again, once they start to realize like what they've learned and the learned behavior patterns, when they start to pull back and take back their power, you're going to see a shift in a lot of people to where it's going to break cycles of codependency. I think that's the biggest one that we are currently generationally breaking, that cycle and curse, is the codependency of the unhealthy or unhealthy attachments to what relationships are supposed to be, and then being able to become whole within ourselves. And you're going to see again so much of how certain relationships on media or certain things are just a distraction from you getting to know you more. A lot of distractions from you getting to build more deeper of a connection with yourself and those around you, because you got to be first whole within yourself before you can even help someone, because you're going to keep pouring from what? Half an empty cup. And you'll be able to see who's who and what is really enabling this codependency or overcompensating, and learn to really build more, to strengthen your roots in this time. And that's what I feel like Virgo does in Virgo season, because it's like really staying more structured and watering your roots in your mind, because your mind is your guardian. Virgo rules like Mercury, or it's ruled by Mercury, and the garden, and how you see yourself, how you perceive other people, through that lens of seeing self. And I had to touch on that subject because I realized like that hit me, like realizing, like bringing to awareness of how, from both matriarchal and patriarchal, a lot of us are wondering, like, not who's just coming to save me, but are you showing up to save you, or are you building with you first before you can build these connections? And again, we've been in the overgiving, overcompensating, burnt out, that led us to burning ourselves out, and it don't got to make sense to people. Like I said, I'm currently going through a transition where people are still wondering why I won't go out here and do certain things, and I'm like, fuck you, I don't care. My well-being is more of a priority than your perception on how I should be as a man, as a person, as a human being, and so forth. And I'm going to stand on business and trust in the divine and hold tight to my vision that was never given to you or anybody else. So that's my message for today. Ask yourself, are you overcompensating for something? And that ain't even just from a physical place of money, because even if it is, that reflects your spiritual well-being and value. You're overcompensating even in the country, like how much we overgive to so much distraction and people and places and so forth. Call your energy back, rest. You'll be surprised how much things start to shift rapidly. Peace and blessings, shalom.